Hello, welcome to the Special Report, your news and views program about geek gaming culture on the internet. Come up in this show today, PewDiePie gives his response to the Wall Street Journal article sliming him and the fallout from it amidst the news that Baker Studios is going to do another downsizing to 300 channels. We're going to talk a lot about what this means to just about everybody because this has a bit of a personal connection to it. I'll talk a lot about that. Yes, we'll get to all of it. My name is JD Shadow, and the special report will start right about now. Okay, this is going to be a bit of an update, well, a lot of an update, because there's a lot of things that came about as a direct result of what transpired earlier this week. I talked about this on the last special report, but there's a lot of more news that we have to get to and a lot more things that we have to talk about here. If you do not know what happened, Felix Kjellberg, also known as PewDiePie, I know I'm not pronouncing his name right, that's how it comes off to me, so that's how I'm pronouncing it. Apologies if I am doing that wrong. In any case, if you do not know what had happened, Disney had dropped him from Maker Studios and YouTube dropped him from Google Preferred and dropped his Scare PewDiePie series off of YouTube Red, following the Wall Street Journal posting a video depicting of about 9 videos in which they feel like he did some anti-Semitism in his videos. Now, they spliced together that video in such a way that it made it look like that he was some sort of Nazi and he was not kidding around when he was paying $5 in order to have 2 guys hold up a sign that said "Death to all Jews" and them saying "Subscribe to Keemstar." Something to which the media still does not add to that whole thing, and we'll get to how the media has reacted to this because there's a lot that I have become annoyed by when we talk about how the media has responded to all of this. And apparently PewDiePie is sort of annoyed as well because he posted a video entitled My Response, in which it is him mostly taking a more calm demeanor than what we usually see him as, in which he basically tells us what we should already know and what the media should already know, and his viewpoint about how the media has responded to this and how they usually treat him. He reiterated that maybe some of the jokes that he was making went a bit too far, and he was sort of a rookie in that comedy field, and sometimes when you are dealing with comedy, you have to blur the lines a little bit, which is actually true if you want to apply George Carlin's viewpoint about comedy, in which you have to find a line and intentionally cross that line. You have to do that in order to get people to laugh at themselves and see how silly some of the things that they think they are offended about actually are for them to be offended at. He did that as a staple of his comedy act throughout the years up until his death, and I believe PewDiePie is playing into that frame of mind here. But he says that perhaps there is a good way and a bad way to go about it, and maybe that he crossed the line in that sense. However, that having been said, he has called out some people, most notably the Wall Street Journal, in how they went about making the video, in which they had actually did what we all thought they did, which is to take things out of context from videos, which he criticized the media for taking him out of context. How about that irony? And yes, we will get to that as well. He also called out J.K. Rowling about her tweet and had likened the Wall Street Journal to The Sun, a UK-based tabloid news magazine, which has had its share of ethics problems in the past, and I don't know if they're owned by News Corp or not. I don't know that for absolute certainty, but I do know that they have had their problems in the past. They've had their share of criticisms, and rightfully so, and it's basically him reiterating what he said in his Tumblr post with some addendums within the video. I will link to you the video itself in the description below this video so you can view that for yourself. There is a lot that he brings up, especially with the media, which has seemingly decided that they wanted to go about leaving the Wall Street Journal anyway, especially with the Wired magazine, which posted on their website that PewDiePie had always been a sort of racist, but now he takes things a bit too far. I would like to find out where they believe that he's quote-unquote always been a racist. I don't know where they're getting that from, but whatever. However, there is another element to this whole thing that we need to talk about, and it's when we talk about Maker Studios. Just a day after PewDiePie was reported to have been dropped from Maker Studios, Filter posted this story on their website about Maker Studios reportedly slashing its creator network of thousands to just 300. And I'll just read you this ad verbatim. It says, quote, on the heels of the announcement that had parted ways with Felix, aka PewDiePie, its highest profile star, Maker Studios is reportedly in the process of dramatically streamlining its network of digital stars. The Disney-owned company, which represents thousands of channels, according to its website, is expected to slash that number to around 300, according to The Hollywood Reporter, in order to increase its focus of influencers at the highest echelons. As a result, Maker will not renew deals with channels that boast smaller followings. Amid these changes, Maker is also set to conduct another significant round of layoffs, according to the reporter, which noted, however, that the company is not imminently shutting down, and it last laid off roughly 30 employees in July in what the company described at the time as a strategic adjustment. Consumers' exit, as well as a streamlining creator network and impending layoffs, illuminate Disney's continued struggles to integrate Maker Studios, which it acquired for less than anticipated $675 million in 2014. Maker generated $300 million in revenue last year, according to Wall Street Journal, but wasn't profitable. In December, Disney folded the company into its consumer products and interactive division, and top executive Courtney Holt stepped down to take on a new role within Disney. And it goes on to talk about how PewDiePie, according to them, was more a symbolic loss than a financial one, and that he had a special deal that enabled him to keep the majority of their earnings, given his unique prominence. And talking about Revel Mode, which is his own MCN, in which people like PewDiePie Marza, Cinnamon Toast Ken, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and Dodger of the Co-Optional podcast alongside Total Biscuit and Jesse Cox. I apologize to Filter for having to read that ad verbatim, but I did not want to get any of these facts wrong. Okay, so let's first of all get to how the media has put upon this story, which is extremely annoying. Even the people who I have respected and still respect, including Liana Kurtzner, who had talked about this with Review Tech USA on her Dialogue Options podcast, and it is very annoying, especially when you're taking into consideration that they are missing a very key layer in this whole thing, which is why he did those jokes in the first place. Say, oh, he made those jokes, he did this, he did that, but they don't go into detail about why. And they're not even bringing in that notion, and they're basing it around what they said instead of even bringing that whole layer into the conversation and not basing anything around that part of it, which what I'm talking about, obviously, is that one, he was doing that to make a point. He was using the Fiverr thing to make a point. He did those two things from Fiverr to make a point about how absurd and how far that they would be able to go for $5. And when those two guys held up that sign, he was legitimately shocked. You could see it in his face. Even the Wall Street Journal thing, which they completely did a hack-it job about that. And we'll get to them because they have the biggest role to play in all of this. He was shocked that they even did that. He was like, I didn't think they would do that. That was something that was new to him. They would actually go ahead and do that because he said that he tried to do other things that he could see as offensive before, and they refused to do that. This time, they decided, hey, we're gonna do it. And yeah, maybe it got him in a lot of trouble. Maybe it was stupid for him to do it again. But when you think about it, did he prove his point? Did he prove his point about how utterly ridiculous some people will go on that site? And here's the biggest thing. When he did that thing at the end of the I'm Racist video, and it's all about him talking about, oh, people taking me out of context, and then he trolls the media by putting something they could take out of context. You know what the Wall Street Journal did? Take him out of context. They use snippets from videos in which he criticizes the media for taking them out of context, and they take those out of context. They take snippets of those and take all the context out, strip all the context out, and then view him, frame him as some sort of racist Nazi. And we're not bringing that into the conversation. Young Turks is not taking that into the conversation. There are very few YouTube makers, H3H3 Productions being one of them, but thank God he spoke up, that were actually paying attention to this. Because not many others were paying attention. Either they didn't know what was going on, or in the case of The Wired, or maybe definitely the Wall Street Journal, they didn't care. Because here's what it comes down to. The Wall Street Journal did such a hackett job on it, and the three guys who made it, the three people who made that article, are proud of what they did. It was like that was their ultimately goal. They basically forced Maker's hand. They basically forced YouTube's hand. They said, you better do something. It was like they were sticking him into the corner, as PewDiePie said, you know what? You have to do something about this, or we're going to keep going after you until you do something about it. We're not going to go away. What do you expect them to do? What do you expect them to be able to do with somebody who's going to breathe down your neck until you decide, hey, we're going to drop him? They had no choice. This was a reactionary thing. And maybe it was something, maybe YouTube felt like they didn't have a choice because of what they were faced with. These three guys, based on their Twitter accounts, were proud of what they did. They seemed to have known what they were going to do before they even did it. And here's where it gets very troubling. PewDiePie had made it apparent through his video, through that new video, that the media does not like the YouTube scene. They do not like these new bloggers who don't really need these credentials in order to get through the gates, so to speak. These print media people like the Wall Street Journal, people like Kotaku, people like whoever else goes in print media and thinks that you have to do all this stuff. You have to go get these journalistic licenses. You have to take years of college in order to get into this field. They're seeing their credibility in their viewership, their readership going down and down and down to these people who all you need in order to probably get big is a good personality, a webcam, a good microphone, and maybe some good games, and or a frame of mind that you know what the hell you're talking about and you care about what you're talking about. You give a crap about what you're talking about. And they seem to have better credibility toward them than the mainstream media, if you want to call it that, has had for years. And they don't like it. But here's the thing I want to say to that. Why do you need to hate us? Because the YouTube scene, you don't need to go to war with them. Yeah, they're competition, that's fine. I mean, competition breeds better product for people in the long run, for consumers in the long run. You need to have competition, or else one person will not care about what they put out there because they'll be the only ones on the market. But at the same time, these are dirty tactics. You don't have to frame somebody as a Nazi. You don't have to frame somebody as bigoted or misogynistic or anything else, especially if they're calling you out. If they are calling you out that much, if you're losing that many readers or that many viewers to these bloggers, to these YouTube personalities who seem to have a better understanding and a better passion for what they do than you ever will, then maybe the problem isn't with the YouTube stars, it's with you. It's with Wall Street Journal, it's with the Young Turks, it's with those guys, because they don't trust you. What part of that do we not understand? They don't trust you, and they're going to these guys because they don't like you. It's part because they like them better. Maybe improve upon your product, give people a reason to come back to you, or to compete in such a way that doesn't seem as though it's vitriolic or it's slimy. The way that the Wall Street Journal did this is the same way I've seen so many other media outlets lately try to slime other people. It's like a macro. As soon as they find somebody they don't like, they're going to try to find whatever they can in order to slime them, in order to make the unskeptic public, who might be either too lazy, too stupid, or so naive that they don't do any research themselves, and hoping that they don't grow a brain or grow a spine or grow something else, and they will do such a hackett job on that person, so much that somebody who's just watching it will not even suspect, not even bring into consideration that, hey, wait a minute, there might be something to this, that the reason that they're even targeting them to begin with. They won't think, hey, there there might be a reason why the Wall Street Journal is going after PewDiePie. There might be an ulterior motive to this. It might be because PewDiePie made them mad and they're coming back at him. No one even brought that up. No one in the media even brought into consideration that maybe it's because he trolled them about the 50 million subs and quitting thing. No one dares to bring it up. No one dares to bring up the other layer to this. And that's because the Wall Street Journal did such a hacked job at this. And here's the thing. The Wall Street Journal needs to get this under control. If I was PewDiePie, I would sue the holy high hell out of the Wall Street Journal because I think he would win this. And I have a feeling that maybe he might be on the fence about this because he seems to be not that happy about it. He seems to have a calm head on the video, but it does seem like you could tell through the way that he did have a few choice words to say there. He did have a few choice gestures to say about the Wall Street Journal in that video. I don't know how smart that was, but you could tell that perhaps he is thinking about it. He's considering a lawsuit, and I think he should, because if the Wall Street Journal keeps these three guys on their payroll, they're going to get burned. These guys are going to continue to do what they're doing. It was obvious that they had to have known that they were taking him out of context. They had to have known that he wasn't actually this racist, and these people who were running with the Wall Street Journal video without even looking toward him and trying to get a response out of him. You know what? You're just as bad. You're just as guilty. Just look. It's right there. All you have to do is talk to him. I don't think he's that bad of a person. I don't think he's that secluded of a human being. Hell, many of us are not bad people. Yes, you're gonna get your dicks every once in a great while, but the majority of the people who are doing these videos, we don't bite. If the media is that untrustworthy and we're telling you about it again and again and again, maybe there's a point to it. Maybe you shouldn't just believe CNN the first thing they say about certain things. Maybe you shouldn't believe Fox News about certain things the very first time you hear them say something. Do your own research. Have your own thoughts. You don't have to let them think for you. You shouldn't let them think for you. And the makers should have not have let them think for them. But here's where I think another factor of this, the additional layer comes into this. The layer, in addition to the layer that I've already said, that they completely ignored. And a little bit of disclosure, because I am affiliated with Maker Studios, at least for right now. We'll see how this goes after what I've heard about this the other day. About Maker Studios cutting the thousands of channels up to 300 of the higher echelon. Basically means the people who make the most money for them. First of all, am I gonna get cut because I'm a smaller channel? I don't know. I've been touting them for a while, saying that they are really good at what they're doing, but lately, I don't know. I've been trying to get my account linked up to where I can get my money from them, but again, that's something that I've been trying to get straightened out, and they haven't particularly helped me with the copyright strikes I keep getting from Toei Animation. I've mentioned that to him, and yet that is going nowhere. Apparently that's going nowhere with Viz Media as well, and I do want to talk about that at some point because, yeah, they had said something to me which I'm not completely happy about, but that's for another video. Anyway, the whole idea that they dropped Felix PewDiePie and then we hear about this, it makes me suspicious about what the real reason was for them to drop him. From what I see out of the Hollywood Reporter story, I have to think that the real reason why they dropped PewDiePie is because he was making no money for them. The majority of the money that came from his videos was going to him. And Maker Studios is in a bit of a financial struggle right now. So the best way in order to make sure that they can make the money that they want to make is by dropping the people who are costing them the most money in order to continue to manage, which is Felix, which is PewDiePie. But how did they get him out of the contract? How did they get out of this contract? Because it probably was ironclad. He was their biggest star. It's not like he was just going to let Maker walk all over them with a contract that didn't make any sense in the long run. He was going to make sure that he was patted down, that he was going to be able to continue to do what he wanted to do. So how do you get out of the contract? Well, you find a way like what the Wall Street Journal found a way for. And I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on for just a minute, because maybe Maker and the Wall Street Journal were colluding in how to get him out of there. Maybe that was the reason why. There had been some ulterior motive there, because how do you miss something that your biggest star is doing since August and not saying anything? They had to have known. If they were thinking that, hey, he was anti-Semitic, if they really thought that, then he was making such videos since August. How do you miss that? That's your biggest star. You're going to be watching him like a hawk. You know what he's going to be about. You know how he's going to be. How do you miss that? It's obvious they watched his videos. This was not them acting through any goodwill or whatever, assuming that he was actually anti-Semitic, which he's not, but they had to have known that. And if they had such a problem, if they had such a problem with what he was doing, the jokes he was using, then you know what? They would have done that a while back. Not now, but the Wall Street Journal contacted them, the studios dropping PewDiePie, and then all of a sudden this news comes out. This is suddenly turning out to be the perfect storm. They found the perfect way to get out of the contract. They found the perfect way to say to PewDiePie, hey, we don't want you in the contract anymore. You're talking us way too much money, but that would be a breach of contract and he would own their asses. So instead, what they were doing was saying, hey, you did something bad, we got content about it, you're now gone. And they don't have to do anything about it because they essentially fired him. They didn't, quote unquote, lay him off, which was a bit different subtext to that. And if that's the case, then he could sue them too. And from the looks of things, a lot of people were going to get very, very upset at Baker Studios and MCNs in general, because MCNs in general were starting to get criticized to hell and back. And quite frankly, PewDiePie is probably going to be better off without an MCN. He doesn't need that. He doesn't need anybody to manage his content. He can do that. He has his own MCN, for God's sakes. What makes you think he needs Maker Studios? Hell, I'm thinking that maybe that's holding me back, is being with them. At this point, I gotta say that just going to AdSense is the best move for me, because quite frankly, they're doing nothing for me. Have you seen my gaming videos get many views as opposed to the anime reactions? They're doing nothing to promote me. They're doing nothing. And yet, their highest echelon stars are going to get all the benefits here? Screw that. When my contract is coming up, I don't know if I'm going to renew either. Because, first of all, this. Second of all, of what I just told you. And by the way, watch those gameplay videos as well. Please do so. They're very good. I hope they are anyways. And finally, as far as the YouTube series goes, he is correct. YouTube is punishing everybody else who worked on that series. And I have to think that that was probably just a reactionary thing, because I don't think Google is in any bit of trouble financially or anything like that. That much of a financial turmoil to where they have to say, we got to get rid of you in one way or the other. I think maybe YouTube might be rethinking that. I hope they are. And I really hope that people like J.K. Rowling and Wired and whoever else was posting these articles and such like that will rethink what they said and listen, not just hear, but listen to what he says, the entirety of what he says, and not just the little snippets of what Wall Street Journal wanted you to believe. And I really do think, I honestly think that PewDiePie has the grounds to sue the asses off of Wall Street Journal, or at least these three guys, because look what Hulk Hogan was able to do to Gawker. Look what he was able to do to those slime balls, who still have not learned their lesson. When those things got sold to Univision, they're still at it. Gizmodo is still at it, even with the PewDiePie thing. And speaking of Gawker, you know what they ran a while back? In February 4th, 2015, Max Reed penned an article that had the headline, "Make Hitler Happy, the beginning of Mein Kampf, as told by Coca-Cola," using Coca-Cola's Make It Happy slogan and Make It Happy campaign, quote unquote, single boost Hitler's Mein Kampf book and turn it into, quote unquote, something happy as told by Coca-Cola. And Coca-Cola's, quote unquote, bot did that. Yeah, and guess what triple Gawker got in? Besides Ad Age getting on them about that. You know how much trouble they got into with that? Nothing. Nothing even close to the onslaught, the blitz of articles about PewDiePie's issues. Now you see where the priorities lie here. I had the feeling it's PewDiePie that is completely rational, completely correct. He showed them up and they're angry about it, and now he has the evidence sides and the go-ahead from me personally to sue their asses. And to those people with the media who still do not get it, you don't have to hate us. There is no reason to. You don't have to be like this every single time. Learn to work with us once in a great while. We're not bad people. We don't bite. We do call you out if you are being a knobsack or you're being stupid about things, but we don't bite. If you are being that called out, maybe the problem is with you, not with us. And maybe grow your own thoughts. Have your own conscience. Don't let people think for you, because that's when you get into huge problems. If you see one viewpoint, look for the other side of the story. Look for another perspective. You might be surprised at what you hear. You might be surprised at what you think once you get that different perspective. You might be surprised at some things. You might be surprised that the people you think are so awful or so bigoted and so deplorable are just everyday people who just have a different opinion and just look at things through a different perspective or saw things through a different perspective. And maybe you will see just how much these media outlets are getting things completely backwards. Either because they don't know any better or because they have an ulterior motive or an ulterior agenda they're trying to push. Maybe that will help us to heal as a nation after the election. This is not making it better. This is making it worse. And the PewDiePie sue the bastards. I'm pretty sure you're going to win that. Okay, that's gonna do it for this edition of the Special Reports. As always, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below. That helps me out a great deal. Also, please leave a comment about what you thought about the opinions I said on today's episode, especially if you don't agree with them. I would like to hear what your thoughts are. As always, thank you for watching. My name is Shady Shadow, and of course, that just happened.